Hello lovelies, and welcome to the first Rwanda Now and Then of 2026, and possibly the last one before I get on the plane to come to Rwanda. So, if you haven't seen this before, Rwanda Now and Then is where I go back through a diary that I kept for 2 years, between 2007 and 2009, when I was a volunteer, a VSO volunteer sign language researcher here in Rwanda, which is where I still live today, but it's been almost 20 years now since I arrived. So I'm going back through my old diary, and we've reached October 2007, which is 1 month before I fly out to Rwanda for the very first time. So let's dive in. All right, guys. So in the last episode, I had just finished my final round of training. I think it was a 5-day training at Harborne Hall in Birmingham, which is where all of the voluntary services overseas volunteers used to go for their training before getting shipped out to whichever country they were going to. And I'd also been on a last family holiday to Mallorca with my dad, Marilyn, and Auntie Jean. And yeah, so now it was feeling very, very real because all of the training was done and I had my ticket ready to get on the plane. So we're picking up today on Saturday, the 20th of October, 2007. And there are 2 posts in this one. The first one is a very short one. It's just about a trip I took to Burton on the Water with Dad and Marilyn. And yeah, it's a really, really beautiful, quintessentially Cotswold village. So quintessentially English village with lots of old sort of tumble down houses and this lovely stream flowing through the middle. I think my dad said it was my nana's like favourite place to go and visit when she come down to see us. And yeah, it's just a really nice place. Oh, apparently there's a lot of quaint little shops, including Christmas Corner. Yeah, it's just a shop in Burton on the Water that is just devoted to Christmas. So yeah, you can buy anything to do with Christmas there, or at least you could 20 years ago. Let's click on the link and see if it still exists. What do we reckon? No. Doesn't still exist. Let me search for it. Maybe it's changed its URL. This often happens, is a lot of the links on my blog don't work anymore, but sometimes if you search the shop, it's just changed its URL, which is to be expected after such a long time. Here it is. Let's have a look at the images first. Let me see what we've got in the images. Yep, here we go. This is it. It's so, so pretty. Let's see if it's got a nice picture of it. Yeah, so you go to this shop and it's just Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. It's such a pretty little shop, but all of the shops in Burton in the Water are like this. If you like perfume, there's also a place there called the Cotswold Perfumery, and one of my favourite perfumes, hold on. So yeah, I hardly ever wear perfume, but when I do, there's 2 that I do, and this one is Neroli, pure Neroli, and that is from the Cotswold Perfumery. Yeah, it just smells very woody but sweet. It's very nice. And the only other one that I ever wear is called, don't laugh at this, it's called Breath of God from Lush, and it's a solid perfume that's bright turquoisey blue, and it smells of black pepper. It's just black pepper and something undefinable, but I think it's one of the most wonderful perfumes. Yeah, anyway, but Burton in the Water is such a nice place. If you ever get the chance to go and visit it, it is picture perfect. If you wanted a postcard picture of England, that's somewhere to go. So yes, we did the very English tea cakes and Earl Grey in one of the tea shops there. I think it was just to kind of really, you know, grab those last moments of being very, very British before I disappeared to Central Africa. I've got a bit of a croaky throat at the moment. Sorry about that. This bit's interesting because I say that autumn is my favourite time of the year, so I'm going to miss it. I like the dark nights, frosted lawns and sharp blue skies. Don't think I'll be seeing much of this in Rwanda. I have a very interesting relationship with autumn, and I'll probably go into it later on. I think I talked about it when I was in the UK and I went round a local garden near my home called Coton Manor, and I did a video there and I talked a bit about it because autumn used to be one of my favourite times. I used to love the smell of autumn. But now, after so many years in a country that doesn't have autumn, I actually find the smell quite off-putting. It's really weird. I'll talk about it later on. But the second post here, oh, this is fun. Right, so haunted Harborne. So like I said, the last post that we did in the last video, I just finished all of my training at Harborne Hall, which is this it was a very old kind of manor house in the suburbs of Birmingham, and I think it was turned into a nunnery at one point. There was so many stories about the place, and the old part of the building was kind of creaky, ghostly goodness. And yes. So, haunted Harborne. Well, that might be the last of the training over, but the memories of Harborne will always haunt me, especially after looking through the photographs I took at this place. Sorry, I really am losing my voice. Yeah, because I was saying as well, I can't remember how I was taking these photographs, but I think it was an old school digital camera, like, I don't know, maybe an old Nikon or something. I'm not sure. But back then, our mobile phones didn't have sort of cameras on them. It wasn't a smartphone back in those days, so I would have had a separate little digital camera. So Harborne Hall has certainly got an interesting vibe, as have a number of other places that have led to strange and unusual photographs, or tricks of the light, as some might say. For instance, about 11 years ago, I went on a family holiday with my dad and aunt to Crete. I've told this story before, the story of Spinalonga and the leper colony. I think I told that in my expat book tag, but I'll just quickly go over it here if you haven't seen that. So we took a tour to Spinalonga, an island formerly used as a leper colony where people were sent to die. A dry well was used as a mass grave, but the villagers themselves often lived for many years, building shops and trading with the mainland. Much of it had crumbled away, but enough remained to understand that you were walking through a village. Even my dad admitted there was a definite presence about the place. What I didn't know until recently, though, was that something very odd happened to my aunt's camera whilst we were there. When she went to get it developed, because back then you took photographs on film. You took photographs on actual film, celluloid cameras. And so you'd go and you take photographs on your holiday, and then you'd go and get them developed at a Photoshop when you got back. So you couldn't actually see what you'd taken a photograph of until several weeks after the holiday, when it was finally processed and you could go and pick up the photographs. Yes, I've told this story before. Spinalonga, this old leper colony, we went to visit it on a day trip from Crete, and my Auntie Jean was taking lots of photographs on the trip, and all of the photographs before we went to Spinalonga came out, and all of the photographs after Spinalonga came out, but not a single photograph on the actual island ever came out. It was just, what did I say here? Yeah, they were just blank. So it was perhaps surprising how unsurprising that was. The place really was quite interesting. Interesting is the British word for, wow, that was weird. We call anything interesting, even if it's uncomfortable or a little bit strange or we don't quite understand it. So if we say, oh, that's interesting, then we mean genuinely that is interesting. But if a British person sort of gives a little pause and says, oh, that's interesting, it means WTF, like, huh? Yeah. When I started discussing such things, I started to meet other people with stories to tell. For instance, a professional photographer called Lee came up with this picture taken at the Nine Ladies, which he swears blind is not doctored. He felt that he had an interaction with the genius loci. So just to translate all of this, the Nine Ladies is a standing stone circle. So throughout the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England. We have loads and loads of very, very, very ancient sites, which are standing stones, huge, great big stones that have been there often for 3,000 or 4,000 years. Actually, I think it's longer than that, because I think it might be something like 3,000 years BC. And the Nine Ladies is one of those stones. Let's see if we can find a picture. So the Nine Ladies, you can't see so much of it, because this is quite an old place. Oh, I do hate these cookie pop-ups. Just go away. Right, yeah, so these are some pictures of the Nine Ladies. And yeah, I mean, nobody's too sure what all of these sites used to be, but probably a ritual site of some kind. So the most famous one in the UK is called Stonehenge. It's absolutely massive. Nobody's entirely sure how they got these rocks into place and got them standing upright. This would have been something similar, but over thousands of years, the weather has worn away the rocks to little stumps. But they're all over the UK, and yeah, it's quite a mystery. So this photographer says he took this picture at the Nine Ladies, and when we say the genius loci, that was sort of the ancient Roman way of saying the spirit of the place. So the spirit of the place, the genius loci. We're a very heathen society in the UK, we really are. Oh wow, yeah, so he took a photograph there, and as you can see there's like a swirl which kind of looks like something's moving across the landscape. In addition to this, another bloke took this one of a bluebell wood in Wales. So you can see like a little light there in the woods. That could just be a speck of light, maybe. It could be even a sunbeam, I don't know. But yeah, it looks really like, what is that? You know, I don't know, maybe it's something reflective on the grass, or maybe it's, if it was taken on celluloid film, maybe there was a scratch on the celluloid. I don't know. I have a couple of other photographs like that, actually, because I went with a friend who used to live in Stirling in Scotland, and there were some silver mines near there. And I remember taking some photographs of the silver mines, and, you know, later on looking at them, and they all came out a bit blurry, a bit like that guy's one of the stone circle. It was kind of a slightly swishy kind of looking photograph. Actually, all of the photographs of the silver mine look like that, so it's a bit weird. But right, so both those and the following were taken with digital cameras. But what I mean by digital camera is like the old school digital cameras, so not like an iPhone today. I mean, they weren't bad, but they weren't great either. But they were all we had back then. I'm old. Right, so personally I find it fascinating because you'd imagine less room for error on a digital camera. Even though it relies on hundreds of minute electronic connections all ticking over smoothly. Oh, that little symbol there is an emoticon. It's what we had before emojis. So before we had little pictures of smiley faces, we used to type them out manually. And that's like somebody sort of grinning like, okay, right, anyway. I seem to be assuming here that I'm talking to a bit of a younger audience, but I actually think most of my audience probably know what I'm talking about, because probably also lived through it as well. Okay. I suppose the influence from electromagnetic fault lines could be greater than celluloid. I don't know. The photo I took was snapped on the 8th of September, so whilst I was at Harborne Hall in Birmingham, whilst on a training skills workshop. It's fair to say that I didn't sleep well, tossing and turning most of the night. From what I've heard, that's common for many people there. The following anomaly occurred only on this photograph. None of the other photographs are odd. So yeah, I took a picture of the room, and this is what it looked like. Huh. Okay. I ran it past a friend who played with it in Paint Shop Pro and affirmed it wasn't internal on the camera. She dimmed it down a bit so that you can see more clearly. Looking at this now, my automatic response to it is that's flecks of dust. But I do remember that none of the other photographs that I took in that room had any of these motes of dust on it. So it's light reflecting off dust is what I thought it was. And none of the other pictures taken in the room had that. And also it looks quite uniform. There's kind of like uniform pattern to it. It's, well, you know, it's odd. It's a strange kind of pattern. Like usually you get like one, maybe two little motes of dust, but that looks like there's a lot of it, which again would suggest it would show up on every other picture if it was really that dusty in the room, but I don't know. There's a really big one, bottom right of the window, and one under the bed. Okay. She also found this link, which suggests that they're just dust particles caught in the light. I'd love to hear from anybody else who's taken a similar picture. There are loads of pictures just like this. Loads of people sort of over the years have taken photographs and they are dust motes. So it's nothing kind of paranormal or weird, but it looks a bit weird. Especially when you change the colouring like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean... it was a seriously strange place. There was a room in Harborne Hall, and I'm surprised that I didn't write about it because I thought that I had. But there was a room in Harborne Hall that, when it was a nunnery or something like that, it used to be used as a mortuary. And that was the story about it, because it was like a cold room. It was always cold in there. And the story, the folklore was that the nuns used to use that as a mortuary if somebody died in the nunnery in Harborne Hall. I don't know if it was true or if it was just a story that they told us because it added to the intrigue. It truly was a fascinating place. But anyway, moving on. Caves. Yes. Right, okay. So, also in the last video, I went on a holiday to Mallorca with my dad and Marilyn and Auntie Jean. And I somehow completely forgot in the last post to mention this, but we went to, and I can't pronounce this, so now, Huevastilhams. I need my friend Maya. She speaks perfect Spanish and here we go. Yeah, Huevastilhams. That was fairly close. Huevastilhams. Huevastilhams is one of Mallorca's many caves that was said to have inspired Jules Verne's Journey to the Centre of the Earth. Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to stop reading. I was telling my cousin Tamsin about this the other day because my cousin Tamsin just got back from Mallorca. She had a fantastic time, and I told her, I said, did you go to the caves? And she was like, no, I didn't know there were any caves. But part of my overriding memory of Mallorca was we went on this day trip to see these underground caves, and they were spectacular. And at the bottom of one of these caves was a massive lake, and it was like the most surreal thing like ever. Did I write about it? They turned it into a full-on multimedia extravaganza and a very unusual rendition of Mozart by a trio of musicians on a gondola floating out across the underground lake. You were standing in this like deep underground cavern with a lake, and just this gondola, these guys in this gondola singing opera. It was really weird. I don't know if they still do, but if they do, you have to go and see this. If you're visiting Mallorca, my cousin was saying it's becoming very popular again to go to Mallorca. So if you go to Mallorca, try and find these caves. It was truly a sight to behold. I'd recommend them to anyone, which leads neatly into my next wee promotion, which is to encourage all those within drivable distance, and especially those with children, to come over to Clearwell Caves in the Forest of Dean for what will undoubtedly be a spectacular festival display. I'm bummed I'll miss it this year. It's one of my favourite places on the planet. They turn the whole place into a walk-through fairy tale. It's beautiful. So I love being underground. I love being deep in the earth. It feels like there's a giant blanket over you when you're down in the caves. And it always kind of makes me think of that scene in Laputa with the elderly gentleman, and they're going through the underground caves and all of the lichen that glows and lights up like stars. I love being in caves. I think they're wonderful. And there's one close to where my dad lives. It's in the Cotswolds and it's called Clearwell. And it's just such a fascinating place. Clearwell is a fascinating place. And at Christmas time, they deck it all out with fake snow and Christmas trees. And they tell a story as you go through the underground caves. And every year the story's different. And it's just magical. If you're ever in the UK at Christmas and you get the chance to go to Clearwell Caves when they've got their display on, go. You have to go. It's so beautiful. And then halfway through the caves there's this giant cavern, like it just opens out into this massive underground cavern, and sometimes they have concerts under there, but at Christmas time they turn it into Santa's grotto with a little post box to the North Pole. And oh, it's just magical. Even as an adult, I love it there. It's just the most beautiful place. Oh my goodness, it's October. So of course, the next post is about Halloween and trick-or-treating, which is an interesting one because I've done a video ages ago about the fact that technically Halloween is banned in Rwanda. I don't think they ever officially repealed the ban, but nowadays people have like Halloween parties. Did I go to one? Yes, I went to a Halloween pub quiz at Quasar this year. So, you know, people do kind of celebrate Halloween now, but technically it's kind of a little bit banned. But in the UK, obviously, it's a huge thing. Even when I was a kid, we went trick-or-treating. It was very much less crazy than the Americans do it. Like the Americans always take things to crazy extremes, but as a kid we definitely did Halloween. So trick or treat, had a brilliant night last night. I've been staying at mum's for a couple of nights, dropping off some boxes and saying my goodbyes. Oh goodness, baby Damien, my nephew, has been here, and my brother Will briefly passed through with his new girlfriend Louisa. I don't know who Louisa, I can't remember Louisa. He's been with his current girlfriend for many years now, and she's absolutely lovely. But yeah, I say baby Damien, my nephew, because he was a baby then. He's now in his 20s, you know, he's got a girlfriend of his own. My goodness me. Yeah, but he would have been wee. He would have been tiny back then. Doesn't time fly? Right. Last night was a Halloween party at our local pub, the Ward Arms. Mum and I dressed up as witches and Merrick went as a wizard. Okay, this is a difficult one as well because the Ward Arms doesn't exist anymore. All through my life, it was like the cornerstone of my village back home in the UK. Like every time I went back to the UK, we'd go for a drink at the Ward Arms. If it was Christmas, there'd be Christmas carols down the Ward Arms, you know. If it was summertime and it was Hollowell Steam Rally, then that's where everybody would end up for a drink during the day. And for a brief period, it got rebranded as the Witch and Sow because the village where I grew up is kind of known for witchcraft. It's not quite as famous as Salem in America, but we had our own little thing going on there back in the 1600s. And so they renamed the pub the Witch and Sow as kind of like a gimmick to kind of sell it on the folklore. But it was always known as the Ward Arms by locals. All the way up until the time that it closed. And yeah, it went bankrupt last year, I guess. Last year, maybe. But it's happened to so many pubs across the UK. Old pubs are just not making their money no more because nobody's going out drinking like they used to. And the price, they're being priced out of the market by these big breweries. And yeah, it's just, you can't run them anymore. But anyway, so this was me and Merrick, so my mum's partner, dressed up and ready to go out. We look so silly. There was some fantastic costumes. Nobby, who was the landlord, dressed up as Shrek. I think he did a brilliant job. He really looks like Shrek in that. That looks fantastic. And the beer is green as well. Nobby had a microbrewery and he made Nobby's beer. A bit like here, we've got Quasar Brewery and you can buy Quasar Brewery beer in the shops. Nobby's beer, I think you can still get that he left the pub years ago. It changed hands many times, but I think he can still get Nobby's beer. And his partner Kate, who's the landlady, she looks so happy. I'm so sorry, Kate. I probably shouldn't be showing this to the world, but she looks so blissfully happy as a pumpkin. And there was a demon barmaid, a witch and her cat, Darth Vader, and the Brides of Death. Shouldn't that be the Brides of Dracula? So yes, this was our barmaid. I've no idea what's going on. Oh, witch and her cat, Darth Vader and another pumpkin. The Brides of Death. Yeah, plus a very cool zombie, Kenny, who won the fancy dress competition. He made the peeling skin himself from flour, water, gelatin, and a little latex. Very effective, if a little itchy, he said. Yeah, he made some effort there. He's looking like a zombie, decent zombie. You know what, actually, he reminds me of Nick Frost in Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, I could see that. So he put a beer on tap called The Witches 3, and it was green. And then we had pub games, including one where contestants had to wrap their partners in bog roll, which is a very British way of saying toilet paper, from head to toe so that they looked like mummies. Yeah, that looked like a fairly normal night in my village. Oh my goodness. I miss the pub, and I miss the way it used to look before. They tried to make it all sort of posh and wooden floorboards, and it just didn't work. Yeah, well. So I said I shall miss the Ward Arms, my friend Jim, and of course my family. Ho-hum, suppose I'd better hurry up and learn how to use Skype. This was how long ago this was. I didn't know how to use Skype, and now Skype doesn't exist anymore. So this was how long ago? Skype back then was cutting edge technology. I'm not kidding you. It was like brain-blowing, world-changing technology, Skype. Who would have thunk it? Okay, so really, I think this edition of Rwanda Now and Then is just me saying goodbye to everybody. Yeah, there were a lot of goodbyes to say. Sunday, 28th of October, 2007. Goodbye. I drove back to Gloucester yesterday morning. My friends Suki and Pete came up from Cardiff, and Cassie and Sean came from London for a goodbye drink. We started in Cafe Rene with a meal and plenty of wine and a very cool ceiling of bottles. Yeah, when I did my tour of Gloucester many videos ago, I popped into Rene's literally to take a picture of the ceiling, and it still looks like this. The ceiling in the pub is just all made of wine bottles. It's very cool. Then we moved on to the New Inn until closing, by which time everyone was rather tipsy. I felt so bad when they'd all left. Suddenly all seems a bit real, but Cass and Sean have given me an envelope to open on the plane, which is brilliant because I think I'm going to need something to focus on. Less than a week to go now. This time next week, I'll be waking up in Rwanda. Oh my goodness. So this is 1 week before I came to Rwanda for the first time. Wow. So Cassie and Sean. Cassie was my best mate through uni. And Sean was my boyfriend at the time. It was his best mate during uni. They worked together. They worked together in Reading. And yeah, so me and my boyfriend broke up, and Cassie and Sean got married, and I was a bridesmaid at the wedding. They're just the loveliest people. They really are. So that's them standing on Gloucester docks, which again, when I did my tour of Gloucester in that video, I walked around Gloucester docks. So if you want to see where I lived before I moved out here, go and check out that video of walking around Gloucester, because it's a really nice place. It's got a big cathedral there, Gloucester Cathedral, which was actually Hogwarts from Harry Potter. That's where they filmed a lot of Harry Potter. How to run away from home, Wednesday the 31st of October. So this is Halloween. Halloween 2007. Okay. In the run-up to Rwanda, a few friends, at least a couple of whom I know will be reading this, have expressed envy at my impending travels and have said they think it's a dead good idea. Sorry, I've just been dive bombed by a fruit fly. I have a lot of fruit flies at the moment. Well, says I, you should try it for yourself. Okay, so as one of the final posts to be written in England, I shall devote it to explaining how to join VSO and go off to far away lands so those who fancy it, either now or in a couple of years, can give it a go. VSO work in around 34 countries around the world, so you don't have to come to Africa. There's also India, China, Mongolia, Vietnam, and a few others listed. I'm not going to read out all of this, but what you can do is go back to my early videos in this playlist, because I literally go through the entire process of applying to VSO, of having my first interview, of going through all of the workshops. I mean, that's what the first part of this series is all about, is how I joined VSO. And I will also leave the link to VSO below, because they still exist today. And if you are a professional looking to go around the world, you know, it's one way to do it. So yeah, watch back through my videos, because I also go through things like vaccination processes, the paperwork involved. And then if you still think it sounds like a good idea, click the VSO link below and you can go and read about how to apply for yourself. I'd still recommend it. I had a really good time, but I know that VSO as an organisation has changed a lot. I think a lot of its funding has probably been cut now that DFID doesn't exist anymore, which used to be the British International sort of Development Fund. So Department for International Development. The clue was in the acronym, but it does still exist and it does still send professional volunteers out around the world. So if it sounds like something you'd like to do, go check it out. All right, so I'll skip over that one because it's a very long post. And now we're into November, and I flew, I think, on the 7th of November. So there can't be very many posts left. I don't know why I'm feeling nervous about this, because I mean, you know, I know how the story ends because I'm here. I'm here and I'm fine, but just I'm having a little twinge for little me back then, and probably also for my family who were getting ready to sort of wave their 26-year-old daughter off on a plane to Central Africa on her own. So I don't know. Okay, guys, 3rd of November 2007, up and away. I thought I flew on the 7th of November, but I guess I flew on the 3rd. Well, final post from England. Off to Heathrow soon, taking off at 7 p.m. Had a lovely drive through the Forest of Dean yesterday with Dad. Stopped off at Tintern for lunch. Tintern is this really beautiful old abbey. It's stunningly beautiful, but like back in the 1500s, we had this whole historical hoo-ha. We had a king called King Henry VIII. He had 6 wives, but originally the church wouldn't let him get divorced. The Catholic Church wouldn't let him divorce his first wife. So he split from the Catholic Church and invented the Church of England, which was a Protestant religion, and basically Anglican religion. Basically, he destroyed a lot of the Catholic monasteries, literally just burnt them down in kind of revenge. And Tintern was one of those, and it's absolutely beautiful, but it looks like the rib cage of an old dinosaur, you know what I mean? You can like see up through the roof. There's nothing left of it now, so it's very beautiful to walk around still though. So the autumn trees were stunning. Went out for Indian in the evening with Marilyn too. So Indian food is very, very popular in the UK. We love it. So yeah, we have a lovely, lovely Indian restaurant in Gloucester, and we had a really nice final meal. Had loads of goodbye phone calls, including Cassie, my friend Graham, and my pre-departure coordinator at VSO, Heather. I've mentioned Heather before. We love Heather. Heather was just an incredible person, and she just got us all through our paperwork and calmed us down if we had any questions or any minor mental breakdowns. She was just fantastic, a really nice person. Dad and Marilyn are giving me a lift to the airport soon, where we'll meet up with my mum and Merrick. So we're all meeting up. So my mum, my dad and their partners, we're all getting together to say goodbye. Haven't done this since Australia. So when I was 22, I'm gonna say 22. I spent a year travelling around Australia with my friend Phil, and our families all came to the airport to wave us off. Yeah, Phil and I were dating at that time, and our families hadn't met each other before, and so we decided that the first time they should meet each other is when we were about to get on a plane to Australia. So we organised that really, really well. Luckily, they all got on really, really well. And I think they stayed on for a drink and a chat after we'd gone. But that was nice in a way, because you don't want to think about the people you're leaving behind as being on their own, you know, like just left on their own, hoping that you're going to be okay and wondering. It's nice if there's a group of them and they can have a drink and a laugh and a chat. Well, not much to say, really. All packed, feeling ready. And I've been ready for a while. You know, I've been through all of the in-country training. We've all been building up to this. You guys have been watching this series. We've been building up to this moment. I think you'll probably all go, get on the plane already. It's like all of this up to this point has just been my life in the UK, and there was a lot of it. So I'm sorry it's taken this long to get to leaving for Rwanda. Also got an email to tell me that one of the photos on my Flickr account will be appearing in the next Cardiff Schmap edition. So I guess, when did Google Maps begin? I don't think we had Google Maps. When did Google Maps happen? Oh, 2005. So Google Maps did exist. There we go. So Street View, you know, when you can drop yourself in and look at the street. Street View was introduced in 2007, which is when we are now, but I don't think it was widely known about. And so I think Cardiff Schmap was kind of like a localized edition of like Google Maps, like pointing out where interesting things are. So let's see if I don't think that still exists. There's no way that still exists. Why would it? I mean, it's probably been replaced by Google Maps like a long time ago. Yeah, I've got no idea what it was, but they wanted to use my picture of the wishing well in Cardiff Butte Park. It's very pretty. You can see all of the blossom in the background. I used to walk past that regularly. I think I went past it almost every day on my way to university. Anyway, shan't ramble, just to say, well, see you in Africa. And I think that's a good place to leave off. So that was the very, very last Rwanda Now and Then from the UK. That was my final few months in the UK. And from now on, it's all going to be about Rwanda. It's going to be about Rwanda 20 years ago. So looking forward to seeing what's changed, what's stayed the same, and see you in the next one.